Hello and thanks for staying with us. The Nigerian Customs Service continued to seize contraband items from importers operating at the nation's seaport. Also on customs report, the Contract General of Customs speaks more on revenue generation with members of the National Assembly. Plus, more report. I am Igiseme Etinye. Stay tuned. The Controller General of Nigerian Customs Service has continued to speak with members of the National Assembly on the workings of the department. He told them that customs will continue to operate on the rules of importation and exportation as approved by government.
I appreciate this committee for coming up with this session, which is an interactive section, and we hope and pray that through this we will be able to learn more and increase our ways and means of generating the revenue that the country deserves. Having said that, Mr. Chairman, let me, before I get into comments that affect customs directly, permit me to digress a little, and that is with regards to the Financial Act, that 2022 that was signed by Mr. President, which was architected by this National Assembly. The Finance Act, Mr. President, seek to, in section 22 of the Finance Bill, which has become Finance Act 2022, it seeks to amend FRS law, section 68, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6, by allowing the Act to take precedence over any other law with regards to administration, assessment, collection, accounting, enforcement of taxes and levies, and due to the federal government and the Federation of Nigeria. When this law was signed, though we haven't received an official copy, we were able to get a copy. The Act, Mr. President, did not state clearly the extent or scope of the taxes or levies in question. We are aware that the taxes and levies under the responsibility of FRS are income tax, personal income tax, capital gain tax, VAT, etc. But this law is so wide and so open that we in the Nigerian Customs perceived it as having also affected our own collection. I would read some part of the law for clearance, for clarity, Mr. Chairman. The law here, Mr. Chairman, because if we are talking of collection, we must be sure that we still have the mandate to collect. The law states in section 61A, that's the amended act, that this act and the laws listed in the first schedule to this act shall take precedence over any other laws with regards to the administration, assessment, collection, accounting, enforcement of taxes and levies due to the federal government or Federation of Nigeria, except in cases.
According to him, the customs is ever ready to stop smuggling of goods into the country. He speaks more.
Such in cases that tax or levy is a subject of litigation in a court of competent jurisdiction, and if the provisions of any act of any other law, including the enactment in the first schedule, are inconsistent with the provisions of this act, the provisions of this act shall prevail, and the provisions of that other laws, to the extent of the inconsistency, should be void. Which to me, and our understanding of this, is that all other laws, which are laws that mandate us to collect, if they are inconsistent with this, then they are voided. Which then means the laws that mandate us as revenue generating agencies are voided completely. Which that means we do do not have the responsibility to collect. So, Mr. Chairman and Senate President, if we do not have the responsibility to collect, then what are we going to discuss here? Senate President, sir, I want to go to subsection 2 of the same act. It says, subject to subsection 1, and notwithstanding any other law imposing taxes or levies in Nigeria, the service shall be the primary agency of the federal government of Nigeria, responsible for the administration, assessment, collection, accounting, enforcement of taxes and levies due to the Federation and the federal government, or any of its agencies, except as may be authorized by a minister responsible for finance or regulation as approved by the National Assembly. The third part of it, criminalize any act. And it says, subject to subsection 1, it shall be an offense for any person to carry out or authorize any other to carry out the function of administering, assessment, collection, accounting, or enforcement of taxes and levies due to the Federation and the federal government of Nigeria, except as may be provided under this Act or any of the laws listed in the first schedule to this Act or as authorized by minister responsible for finance and by regulation and approved by National Assembly. Mr. Chairman, we have consulted with lawyers, we have consulted with the legal luminaries, and the conclusion is that this act is confusing. And if stakeholders decide to take leverage of this, they can decide to say, we are not supposed to collect duties and levies. And therefore, they only pay to FIRS. And that will bring a complete, total chaos in this country. So I think before we go to Mr. President, and of course the committee chairman, we want please you to take time and tell us the extent of this law and the scope of this law, so that we know if we are still legitimately allowed by the law to collect. If we are not, then I think we do not have any business being here.
The former Public Relations Officer of the Nigerian Customs Service, Controller Joseph Atta, who is now an area controller in charge of Kebbi, has been speaking on public relations matters as it affects the Nigerian Customs Service. He has this to say on issues concerning seizures made by various commands in the country.
This is a tough question, and you see, we are human beings. In any human society, there are bound to be deviants. There are bound to be developments that influence decisions and so on and so forth. Sometimes associations, sometimes interactions with people, either within or outside, can also influence decisions. We are not really in the game of reading the minds of Nigerians, but there's one thing we do know, and that is backed by law, that wherever we see anything that is prohibited, our job is to make seizure and arrest the culprit and bring him to justice. When you have a leadership that is focused, when you have a leadership that is a stickler to the standard operating procedure, what you get is productivity, higher productivity, and so on and so forth. The Comptroller General of Customs, Colonel Hamid Ibrahim Ali, retired, with members of his management team, have a clear SOP, that's the standard operating procedure, on everything. Is it recruitment? Is it posting? Is it whatever? What they do on a daily basis is to continue to beam their searchlights on the field operators to ensure that these SOPs are carried out to the letter. And that's simply what they do. And that's the result you are getting. And then they increase automation. You can't take away the place of automation when it comes to fighting corruption, when it comes to blocking leakages, when it comes to ensuring that everything is channeled to government posts. Automation can ensure that. And the more we automate, the less the leakages. And with the coming in of scanners, you know, trade will be robustly facilitated. Revenue, of course, will increase, and we hope that there will also be a positive impact on national security.
You are watching the program Customs Report. The Customs Area Controller in charge of Think and Customs Command has officially handed over to newly appointed controller, who now takes charge of the command. While in Tinkan, the outgoing controller generated billions of naira for the government. He speaks more.
Today, by the grace of God, 14th February 2021, 22, sorry. On 1st February 2018, under the same roof, that is 4 years ago, I took over realms of affairs of this command from retired ACG Bashar. Today, by the grace of God, I'm handing over to a colleague, Controller Kulle Oloyede. My mandate to Thinkan Island Port as the area controller has largely been achieved. 2017 revenue was 287 billion. So cumulatively, from 2018 to 2021, we got an improvement in revenue by about 206 billion. Result, at least, alhamdulillah, we have, the revenue have grown, have improved in revenue, and one can say without any doubt that we have gotten some improvement in our revenue collection. The second mandate was that of trade facilitation. Part of the gap I have identified on arrival was that there wasn't a standing dispute resolution committee. There was no help desk. So what we did quickly was to create and establish a dispute resolution seat. All decisions by dispute resolution seat was binding, and it remains binding. In fact, what we do, whatever decision the dispute resolution takes, we ask the officer who probably is in dispute, ask him, please, you have to release this. This is in line with the resolution of the dispute resolution committee. Should you have any other observation, please allow the cargo to go, then you can come back to it. We also established a help desk, which I chair, and the PRO is the vice chair of the help desk. In case any operator or any stakeholders has issue or he wants clarification, anything, he will normally come to either the PRO or myself. Whatever we cannot handle or clarify, we will normally escalate to the headquarters. We also try to establish the one-stop shop. This is something for the future. The vision is clear. We have tried to establish, even though there was issue here and there, but I think it's time we resolve to establish that. Because whichever forum you attend and our stakeholders are there, they will normally raise issues with double handling here and there. So our idea was if there are issues identified by any of the units, all the units will have opportunity to review it there and then and take decisions. Whatever decision they take is binding on all the units, and we will have no reason to come back to that transaction. At the end, the PCA exists, post-clearance audit unit, so they can go after those transactions.
Why the newly appointed area controller has this to say.
Yes, colleague, outgoing area controller, MBA. We call him MBA. That is, and that MBA stands for quality, for resilience, and for success. I am most honored to be here. And like I would share with you, I was also in one of the offices there as a DSC in the valuation seat of Canada because of modernization. And coincidentally, I was, before now, the controller in charge of modernization and risk management. And you know, going forward these days, the clearance procedure is based on intelligence risk management. You see the data, you profile it, you assess it, and you share it. Because a risk could either be positive or could be negative. And when you share risk, you mitigate against the negative natures of risk generally. In life, we take risk. If you sleep, to wake is a risk, but that is divine. But in our workplace, there is always room to use historical data to judge what you will see as you work and going forward. When I was in Abuja, we worked on the risk mandate for the service, and it was approved by the management. We also worked to give the Nigerian Customs Service a risk policy. We worked on it for quite like a year, and it was also approved by the service. Capping all of this together, we know going forward in clearance procedure, because of the intent now, is trade facilitation. Trade facilitation for compliant traders. So we have different tools that a compliant trader will lash on to get his business done quickly and with less cost. So we would be coming here with that idea of facilitating trade. Like when I was being given brief by my colleague, he was particular revenue trade facilitation. And I asked the question, how do I facilitate a non-compliant trade? He said, use your initiatives, give responsibilities to your officers, and make sure you receive reports so that you can analyze and use your little knowledge about risk management to profile immediate solution and sometimes long-term solutions.
The Nigerian Customs Service has intercepted 2 containers loaded with unapproved drugs at KLT terminal in Lagos. The drugs came in from India without government approval. The Lighter terminal has seized drugs worth 212 million naira for an importer who is on the run. The customs area controller said that the massive seizure of the drugs was smuggled into the country illegally.
Carrying prohibited items. We have the 2 containers behind me here. This is a product of intelligence gathering, shared intelligence between the service and our sister agencies, including the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NAFDAC, and other agencies. So here we have cough syrup containing codeine. We have other pharmaceuticals, the drug called Hyagra, which is the equivalent of Viagra. Now, you are all witnesses to the security challenges we are facing in this country. And you are aware of the link between drug abuse and the ongoing security challenges. So this is a product, like I said, of shared intelligence. We have been on the trail of this importer for a while, and we are happy that we have been able to effect this. So these are overtime containers that we have been profiling for a while. No declaration has been made so far, and we have been able to effect this seizure. Now we have a total of 2,875 cartons of cough syrup containing codeine. We have 383 cartons of the drug Viagra, which I said is the pharmaceutical equivalent of Viagra. Then we have 99 cartons of manual blender. Now, what was declared, what was manifested is a different item completely. What was manifested was a hot pot.
The seized drugs were fully loaded in 2 containers which were illegally imported into Nigeria from India without approval from the appropriate authority. The importer concealed the drugs with blenders documentation.
As much as we work hard to stop this illegal trade, you see these people are determined to make ungodly gains. You can imagine the value of this seizure. So people will definitely try every means. And I told you also that what was manifested is a different item completely. Yes. So they will definitely find ways to cover their tracks. And that's why we have to always continue to reinvent our activities ourselves, you understand, to be able to match up with them.
The 2 containers were fully loaded with cartons of cough syrup with codeine. The seized drugs are labeled for export only, which shows that the drugs are not even for consumption in their country. He urged importers and agents to stop importing drugs into the country without government approval. The outgoing controller said that the command is committed to further enforce its responsibility in containing smuggling in the area.
My officers, police, the borders, both day and night, both day and night, day and police in this place, 247. Some of these unscrupulous smugglers still devise means to see how they can escape. You know, Oyo also has a very big route.
He explained that the command has zero tolerance for all acts of corrupt practices in the fight against smuggling. The command made the seizure of used shoes, 132 bales of second-hand clothing, over 5,000 bags of rice.
Created various task force teams, namely PMS task force, Excise task force, Operation Fish Out, and Mining task force. However, these task force teams would not have been functional, efficient, and effective if the officers were not committed to achieving the mandate of the Controller General of Customs. The Controller General of Customs, Colonel Hamid Ibrahim Ali, retired, has mandated the enforcement of government policies in the fight against smuggling of prohibited and restricted items, which has helped in stemming the menace of insecurity, improving health conditions, and saving our local industry. Its administration has zero tolerance for all acts of corrupt practices, and the Oyo Area Command is committed to enforcing same. The Area Command under my management has further enhanced its anti-smuggling strategies by taking the battle to the doorsteps of the smugglers. Rather than waiting for them to come out, we have sharpened our intelligence and enforcement capabilities to fight smuggling and enforce compliance with reference to extant laws guiding our procedures and rules of engagement. The command has improved in its strides to success by collecting a total sum of 80,378,935,034 naira and 59 kobo in duties, and seizures with duty pay value of 931,835,816 naira.
He urged stakeholders in the command to continue to work with customs and fight against smuggling activities in the border areas. Just round up this week's edition of the program, Customs Report. We brought you a report where goods worth millions of naira was intercepted by one of the commands in the country. For me, Ige 718, thanks for watching.